Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast episode. And today we are continuing with our mini series called Create Your Embodied, Thriving, and Sacred Business. And today I have got a pleasure of speaking with Fabi Belgardt. So, hello, Fabi, and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's really lovely to be speaking with you. So for those of you who don't know Fabi, Fabi is a VA, really amazing, great VA, and systems expert. And she also creates the most amazing Squarespace websites, like created my Squarespace website, which I absolutely love. So I just want to say that, Fabi, right from the beginning. And today we are talking about systems. Like, I want us to explore a little bit how we can move from overwhelm to sustainable systems, because this is something that I've experienced in my business and I see other practitioners really struggle with. You know, at the beginning, we can really easily manage with very few systems because we've got very few clients, few offerings, and it's okay, it kind of works. And at some point, as we are growing our business, it all becomes really overwhelming, especially if you're trying to do everything manually, like I have done for many years. You know, then you have to start really think like, oh God, how do I manage all of it? You know, there are too many moving parts, and trying to keep up with all of it can be really, 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 really stressful and really overwhelming. So I wanted to ask you, Fabi, you know, what's the first thing that comes up for you when we talk about systems? Because you support, you support myself, but you support other practitioners within the embodied business mandala as a tech expert. But you also, I know, support loads of other practitioners who are doing amazing work within kind of training and yoga and holistic wellness and coaching space. So what stands up for you? I mean, what is the first thing that comes up for you when we start talking about systems?
Yeah, so already a lot what you said. I think that we're missing a lot of systems, and systems are such a foundation of us to grow our business because yeah, you manage for a while and that's all fine, but then after a while it's a bit chaos. We don't really find anything. We're trying to manage like multiple different things, but nothing is really streamlined and it's just chaotic. And it really keeps us from growing because we just can't manage taking on more clients. And I've experienced that myself as well. Because, you know, if we're missing those kind of foundational systems, then we don't have the capacity to grow because we're spending all our time on tech and setting things up, and we just don't have time and capacity to do that without missing systems. And I see that really with most of my clients, how, you know, the difference it makes once certain systems are set up, those foundations, then there's capacity and space to do other things. So we don't waste our time with that all the time. And it allows us to go on holiday and not worry about, you know, everything running because everything's automated and, you know, your business doesn't collapse just because you're stepping away. And it just makes things much more sustainable. Because otherwise, I think if we want to grow our business, it's really not sustainable doing everything manually. But yet there's a lot of fear, and I think there's a lot of worry and fear around systems because it can feel a little bit like we're letting go of things, and it feels a bit scary sometimes at the beginning and finding the right things. But ultimately, once they're set up and we get used to it, I think we're all very happy that we have them. But yeah, a few things that stand out to me when it kind of comes to finding the right systems, it's really keeping it simple. I think we all have a tendency to overcomplicate.
Yeah.
And we want to find that one perfect system that does everything and, you know, solves all the problems in one. And often that doesn't quite work. So really keeping it simple. We don't need loads of complicated things, just very basic. You know, Google Drive is brilliant if you organize it properly. You know, you don't need lots of fancy things. The more we grow, the more we kind of grow our systems, I think. But we can start really basic and then build on that. Because a lot of the time as well, I think if we go too big too quickly, it it also doesn't work, and this kind of starts a block. It's quite similar for me. I tried to use we talked about this Stepsado, and I was utterly overwhelmed. I was in, even as a, I work a lot with systems, and that's kind of my expertise, but even I was utterly overwhelmed and stressed. I didn't have the capacity to learn it. And I had to accept that that wasn't the right tool for me at this stage. So dialing it back, keeping it simple for what works for me right now. And I think that comes back to the other point of finding what works for you. We're all very different. We all need different tools, different things in our business. Each of our businesses is a little bit different what we want. So really finding what works for us, what resonates. Because I think we're always trying to find the perfect answer for that perfect tool, but actually finding what works for us is so important. And then just sticking with that, using it, trial and error, use the free versions of a new system to really try it, see if you like it, if it resonates. And if it does, really committing to it and to learning it and to spend some time on it. And then it can be really great and makes so many things in your business easier.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in here, what you just said. I mean, I remember years ago when I started learning MailChimp, and I remember trying to write a blog in the MailChimp. Obviously, I was new to blogging and writing blogs, and I was new to MailChimp. And I pressed something and it completely disappeared, and I couldn't get it back. And I remember just sitting on my bed and crying my eyes out and just thinking, this is ridiculous. I'm never going to learn this. This is awful. And then obviously, shaking it all off and going in and doing it again. And that was lesson learned. Like, do not try to do it within, but create it somewhere else, save it, then copy and paste. Yes. And, I've been using systems. I'm quite okay with systems. And for many years, I did it myself. Just like many of us, we start with, doing it ourselves because we've got an abundance of time and not abundance of money and, financial resources to actually pay somebody to help us to set it up for most of us. And so we try to do it ourselves. And so for many years, I've tried to do it myself. And till I got to the point where I realized that it's like, I don't have a lot of time now. Yes, I could spend a couple of days trying to work it out, or a number of hours trying to work it out, but actually my time is better spent somewhere else. And so it's really great to be at that point and actually work with you and kind of, as you said, it requires a lot of trust. It's like, can I hand it over to somebody else? Tell them this is what I want to do. Maybe write the text with it, but hand the rest of the stuff to somebody else. And it's letting go of that control, isn't it? It's like before I was doing it all myself. Yes, it was blood, sweat, and tears, but I achieved it, and now kind of trusting somebody to do that. And one of the things that really I'm struggling with, and you mentioned that now a moment ago, it's about choosing the right tools, choosing the right systems. And I really struggle with it. There are so many different things out there. I mean, we've been looking at setting up, like I've been using lists and my planner and notebooks and notepads and all of that for many, many years to organize myself. Maybe very simple planners, like we have got a really great planner that we both created, the 90-day planner in the Embodied Business Mandala, which is great and I use daily. But I've really struggled with, for example, choosing the right software or the right platform for my courses. Like I tried, for example, Teachable. I tried Thinkific. I tried, I know that you tried Podia. We tried lots of different things. And it's like, it's taking me a while to actually set up on Simplero as a platform to go with. The other example is, we've been looking at how to organize the time. And, I've tried Asana, which was okay. I tried Trello. I think I tried other things. But we, now we are working with ClickUp. So if somebody is in that position when they are like, God, shall I choose this? What shall I do? And kind of go into this, from the nervous system regulation point or understanding, is this freeze response, like, I want to do something, but I can't, I don't know what, I want to do something, I need to choose, but I don't know, classical freeze response and procrastination that comes with it. What would you say to them?
Well, that's a good question. I've been in that situation many times myself because I like trying out different things, and I come across this obviously loads. But I think the first thing I'll always say, and from my own experience, is step away, do something else. Because I think when we're in that state, we just can't really make a decision, and it's really hard. Then doing some research, but not too much, because the more systems we come across, the more overwhelming it gets. I think generally speaking, most things do this similar things. It really comes down to personal preference. I think what really helps is really making a list of the features that you needed to have. So really being clear on what you need, because we all need something slightly different. I know a lot of people look for booking systems as well, and there's so many different versions. Then being quite clear on where you are within your business, because I think, again, if you're right at the beginning, you might look for cheaper versions, free versions. But actually, if you're at a space where you want to grow a little bit more, then maybe looking at more, are you willing to invest certain things that might give you more features? Then being clear that not everything is going to solve everything. I think taking the expectations of one system having to do everything for you.
That's what I want. I want one system that will do everything, and that I learn once and stay for the rest of my life with.
And we all do. And I get that. But I think to a certain degree, that's not always possible. I personally always think there's certain tools that specialize in something. It's like a website that specializes in a website. That's why they're good at it. It's like Squarespace, they create an SEO and all those kind of things, making it really easy to use. Yes, you get other tools like Offering Trees and Player and all that do everything in one, but maybe those features aren't as great for SEO. They have other, I think we always have like a focus for each tool, what kind of their specialism, and they kind of add to it to appeal to more people. So kind of, being very clear on what you want, what you need, but maybe dialing down the expectations, being, it's like my example of Dubsado. Yes, Dubsado does everything in one, but it was utterly complicated. So I rather move back to having two separate tools and integrating them together. Yes, I have more systems, but it works easier. And then do a little bit of trial and error. Try them out, because I think that's the best way to experience it. If we just read about it, we can't really get a feel for it. Watch some YouTube tutorials. Obviously, that's all quite time intense, but sometimes we need to invest a little bit of time at the beginning to then work it properly. Especially if we can't pay for somebody to do it for us, investing a little bit of time, then trial it out. I've tried so many platforms before I settle on something. And find what works for you, because we talked about this. I used to use Asana. I really liked it for like the basic use. Now it doesn't work for me anymore, but for just for writing lists and stuff, it worked really well. But other people don't like it. I know loads of people that like Trello, and loads of people that don't. I don't personally find it useful, not for every purpose anyway. So not necessarily listening to what other people do, but rather finding what works for you. And I think that comes back to all of our work, isn't it? Really finding your own path and your own systems that work for you. So there's not really one solution for everyone. That's why there are so many systems, because it all works slightly different. Our brain works slightly different. The way we approach things, how like systemized we are, is very different. And then just trying it out a little bit, and then just committing. I think that's the most important thing, because every system is going to do the right thing that you need or want, but then just committing, because I think that flip-flopping is the most that's the kind of danger then, because we waste so much time, and then we do a little bit there, and then we go back, and I've done it with this, and I ClickUp until I finally decided. So kind of constantly going back and forth, instead of just investing my time into one system and really learning it and using it. I think that's the most important part, because if we don't use it, it's pointless. No system is going to work. So really investing that time and committing to it. And then, after nothing's forever. If after 6 months you say this just doesn't work for me, then we're fine. You can find something else.
Yeah.
I think, taking that pressure off a little bit, that something has to be forever, and it changes as well, when we grow over time as well anyway.
Yeah, it's such a great advice. I think it's, I think one of the challenges of what you are really talking about in here, what stands out for me is the challenge of like my brain works in a certain kind of way. I've got certain strengths. Like I love creating and delivering trainings. I love holding space. I love, that interaction. And yes, I can do tech, but that's not my strength. And it's taken me a long time to kind of just admit it. It's like, just do it. And it's actually been absolutely wonderful experience and liberating thing. And I think obviously that's down to who you work with. And working with you has been really easy and really, really great experience. So my question for you would be, how does somebody know that they need some support?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, because you work with practitioners and, you support quite a number of quite well-established practitioners. And I know that you also, offer free calls where people call in. So you've had an experience of speaking with practitioners on all different stages of their business. And some, I know from our previous conversations, there's some, really weren't at the right stage for you to work with them and support them because of what they wanted. So is there any kind of words of wisdom here from your experience?
So I would say there's 2 stages. I think there's one where tech is just not your thing and it's overwhelming you and you can't work with it. And I see it in a few clients that I work with more like tech support sessions, but also some, more project-based or retainer clients. You have the strategy in place. Maybe you're working with a business coach or something, they give you all the strategy, but then implementing is completely impossible because you don't know how the tech works. And then you don't have the systems, you don't have an email automation or website or a landing page or anything. And trying to figure that out whilst you're running your own business, maybe, multiple other things, it's really hard. So maybe it's that realization, as you say, what's my strength? And if I don't have the capacity to learn that, can I get support maybe just for those smaller bits? It doesn't, it might not be like a commitment long term, but maybe for those smaller bits or just a little bit of advice sometimes, isn't it? So that's one stage, I would say. Then the other side is growing your business for maybe getting like that continuous support from a VA or any other capacity. And I think it kind of comes to that point when I feel like you always said that quite nicely. It's like when I feel like I have to clone myself to get things done. And I think, when you're at that stage, you really know that feeling of you just can't do it all yourself anymore. Maybe you already have some systems in place. Maybe they need optimizing, but, there's something there, but you still just cannot manage to do everything yourself anymore. And that's not necessarily to then partially to take on more clients, but also to just rest and have some space and get that capacity to breathe again, because it can be quite overwhelming. So I think when it comes to that stage, definitely worth considering getting support. And I think I find it quite interesting. It's my own mindset as well recently. I think we're very quick to get business support or more courses or more trainings, but actually what would make a difference for your day to day, if you really feel like I just can't manage it anymore, then actually doing another training or course won't help it. But actually having support to outsource a few things could make a huge difference and give you some more space to grow your business.
Yeah, that was definitely my my realization. A couple of years ago. It was just like, I am very happy to pay business coach to be part of the mastermind and have the support around my mindset and what I need to do. But then I wasn't really getting any. Then I was trying to do everything myself, and I wasn't getting any support with actually implementing all of that.
Yeah.
That's made a huge, huge difference. And one of the things that I hear some coaches say, especially business coaches, is to invest in that kind of support, VA or tech support, before you are ready.
Yes.
So your business can grow, and invest in a person that can help you take your business to the next level. And create the teams. And, that seems to be like, I'm so happy to have you part of my team. It's like, because we talk, we meet regularly, we discuss how things can be done, and I don't have to hold it in my head and think about it and kind of trying to think, because I know that I will procrastinate. If I don't know how to do something, I will just not do it. It will just not get done. Just like, with my podcast. And hello, everyone. Thank you for listening. This podcast wouldn't really exist without your support, because I've been trying to get it started for 2 years.
Yeah.
I even recorded interviews with people, and then it still took me 2 years to actually start releasing the podcast episodes.
Yeah.
And it happened, I don't know if you remember, but it happened when I really finally admitted to myself that it's the tech side that is stopping me. Like, I love recording these interviews and episodes, but I don't want to then have to spend time to create everything else, and uploading and mixing and adding things like the intro and outro and the music, and then releasing it. And, that was a huge revelation for me, to actually trust somebody else, trust you to do that thing, and to complete it in a way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I guess it's like, the stuff that you are talking in here about is this connection between the stress, the overwhelm, and the missing systems. I mean, I'd love you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think there's two parts. There's missing systems, and that's causing us stress because we just, have to do everything manually, write each email by, by hand, or, we have a list of people that signed up to a workshop on Zoom, but then we have to transfer them all onto our mailing list, doing everything manually. I mean, that's just stressful and overwhelming. And
it's exhausting.
It's just time that we don't have when we run a business. If you have loads of clients, then you don't really have time to do that, or you end up doing it at night. So that's the, this part that if we don't have the systems in place, the automations, then that gets really stressful. Or trying to hold all our information in our brain, or having scattered little post-it notes everywhere in our room, because we don't have one system to have it in place. And it's like, and we work on that a lot as well, as the kind of SOPs, the standard operating procedures, to really have systems for each part of our business. So it's all automated. So that obviously causes a lot of stress, because doing everything manually is just very time consuming. But then there's also tech that just causes freeze within us, because tech feels scary, and systems,
even the language sounds scary sometimes.
System sounds like dry.
It's like tripwire.
It's
like, oh my God. And it's like funnels, and I can see it when we are working with other practitioners in it's like, oh no, what is that? What am I supposed to do with it?
Yeah, and I see it as well as that, especially in the well-being space, I would say there's a lot of fear around that, and the kind of systemizing and those foundations, because it kind of feels like it takes a bit of, I don't know, it feels too strict and too pinned down. You want freedom, and but actually it's the opposite way, isn't it? If we have those things in place, we create much more freedom for ourselves and our business. But I totally recognize the kind of fear around certain systems, and that scary feeling, or you're trying to work out your mailing system for months and it's still stressing you out. Really get that. So again, I think it comes down to tech, giving yourself more time. I think that's crucial when it comes to tech, because we try to do it, I got 1 hour, I'm going to set up this whole system now, and then it's going to be working for next week, because I'm starting my course next week. and the time pressure is super difficult. To give yourself much, much, much more time to set those things up. Maybe smaller chunks. Hour might be quite overwhelming to dedicate yourself to something. Maybe smaller chunks, just chipping away at it and allowing that kind of learning curve. And when it gets overwhelming, when we get into that freeze state of like the whole body is getting tense and the shoulders are tense, and I usually come to the point as well where I was just getting utterly frustrated. And it's like, okay, no, it's time to step away, to have a break, do something completely different. And then usually when we're a bit more grounded, regulated, and come back to it, then makes such a difference how we work on things as well.
Yeah, there is so much in here, so much in here. I think it's a really funny dynamic, isn't it? It's like the lack of systems can cause stress and add to the stress of running the business, because running your own business can be very challenging. And then the stress of that will impact the decisions that you make and how you show up. And then things don't get done, so that causes stress. And that stress then, like complete meltdown and overwhelm. And yeah, and there is something, I mean, what I love, it's like, it's simple things. Like, remember when we were talking about YouTube videos and releasing the past podcast episode as YouTube, because started releasing it a little bit later than on Spotify and iTunes, or Apple podcast. And so, for a few months, I went into the habit of like remembering, okay, it's like I'm releasing 3 a week, so I have to go in and release. And till we had a conversation, it was so simple. You just said, oh, it can be scheduled. I can just go in and schedule it, and then kind of make sure that it's released. We schedule it for the next month. And I was like, I haven't thought about this. Yeah. So now it's kind of releasing, and I don't have to
think about it,
keep it in my head or keep it in my diary, to kind of remember that I have to go. And it's the same for social media posts. It's the same for the stuff on the website, like putting the stuff in the, it's like this mini series, keeping it on the website and adding it. Like, I don't have to think about it, because I have got that support from you, which is so liberating. The only thing I have to think about, it's like, okay, what's the next podcast interview or episode? What's the next resource that I'm going to create for trauma-informed somatic teacher and coach for women training certification? What's the next piece that I want to work on? And how can I support my clients, or record some trainings for the Embodied Business Mandala? I think it's those things that really, once they're in place, they work so well. And it's like, working with some practitioners who say, like, I want to create my freebie. And 6 months later, it's still like, well, I haven't created my freebie yet. This is my priority. And then not really doing it.
Yes, exactly. A lot of the times that's the tech, isn't it? Not
knowing
how to do it. And what we were saying before as well, I think it's, yes, having that freedom of somebody else doing it, but also if you're not quite at that stage yet, as you said, it's really simple, like simple tweaks that we can do to automate things and not do everything manually, to have our email, when somebody signs up to our newsletter, they automatically get an email. We don't have to remember to go in there. And it's also a little bit more professional at times, because people, don't have to wait a week till they get an automated, something that could be automated with, your free resource, or, having to collect manually, get in touch to book. And then you have to write back and forth, and you have like a 10-minute back and forth email conversation about booking onto a yoga class, where they could just do that automated. So
yeah, completely.
Even if you're not at that stage yet where you can outsource or get support, having those things in place first is really helpful. Just create a little bit more space and make it all sustainable, what you were saying earlier as well, isn't it? It's, yes, getting that support maybe a little bit sooner than we don't have to push ourselves to burn out before we get support. But also,
So what you're saying basically is that you don't have to do it on your own.
yes,
That if you are struggling, if it's causing you a lot of stress, if you feel overwhelmed, it's really good to seek support, even if it is just on that individual project, to help you set it up so then you can run with it.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It makes it all more sustainable and not such a uphill battle all the time when we run our business. As you said before as well, there's so many things we juggle already anyway, so many challenges. So there's little things we can make to make it easier.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much, Fabi, for joining me today and talking about systems. And if people wanted to find out about the work that you do, how can they find you?
Yes, so on my website, I'll also probably share our links by my website, fabianbelgardt.com, but also on social media, Fabian Belgardt VA. I have a Facebook community for kind of those sustainable business practices, especially, if you don't want to invest yet, but you want to get some tips and resources. I share a lot of that in there. When those questions that always come up. So yeah, that's my Facebook community, sustainable business community for female business owners.
Brilliant. Thank you, Fabi. And obviously, if you are interested in getting support for over a year, you can join me and Fabi in the Embodied Business Mandala 1-year mentorship and mastermind circle. And again, we will put some information in the links. And just want to end it with saying, if you're struggling, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling really stressed out, there is another way of doing it. Both me and Fabi are a great example of that. And you're not born with those skills. You can learn it and you can have support in learning them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Thank you, Fabi, so much for joining me. And
thank you for having me.
Thank you, and see you all later.